Yo, what up? How's everybody doing? Captioner? You good? Alright. How's everybody doing? I hope everyone has had a good day. I woke up briefly at a reasonable hour, and then next thing I knew, I woke up and it was 6 p.m. So that's why the stream's starting a little late. Yesterday, I was like on a reasonable... I woke up like a little past noon, and I was like, great. This could not possibly go wrong. I'm awake while the sun is up, and not only was I awake, I was like awake and functional. I was feeling good. Everything was great. And how easily things fall apart. Had to get up at 8 a.m. I am so sorry. Despite some effort on my part, it would probably be easier for me to stay up until 8 a.m. Than it would be for me to wake up at 8 a.m. I'm working on it, but golly, my body for the last couple of weeks has just thought that bed is really cool. And I don't disagree, I do have a very comfortable bed, but golly, I would like to see the sun. At least a little bit. So, we're gonna continue, and God willing, Comcast willing, finish the games I streamed in 2022 tier list. We had some opinions on some of the things that I had to say about some of these games, and we had a lot of people complaining about me putting Xenoblade Chronicles 2 and Xenoblade Chronicles 1 on the tier list twice. But I needed things to be clear, so I made things more complicated, obviously. So, let's go ahead and switch over and see how things lie at the moment. So, S tier. You should just make more tiers. Oh god. I don't even have quite enough room to fit the tiers that I do have, because somebody said that they had short-term memory problems and needed a separate tier to be whatever game I'm currently talking about. These letters aren't cutting it. Gotta have good game, but bad game. Look, I don't think I could wrap my head around that, because I think basically every game on this list could be categorized as a good game in some way, shape, or form. Good game, but bad game but good game. Yeah, I don't have that kind of brain working for me. Concerned with some of the entries on this list, like what? Well, let's go over the list, audibly, for people that are not paying direct attention. In S tier, we have Super Mario 64 EX Co-op mod. We have Little Gator Game, Tunic, Elden Ring, Super Mario 64, Kirby and the Forgotten Land, Yakuza Kiwami 2, Xenoblade Chronicles 3, Sonic Adventure 2, Yakuza 5, Vampire Survivors, Guess the Game, Dwarf Fortress, Path of Exile, Rim World, Yakuza 4, the Jackbox Party Packs, and Xenoblade Chronicles 2. So this is not an exact ordering in terms of, like, which are the absolute best. The better games err towards the start of this pile of games. Also, Hype Train just in time to annoy me. So, Xenoblade Chronicles 2 is definitely the lower end of S tier. Little Gator Game, Tunic, Elden Ring, Super Mario 64 co-op, definitely towards the top, but if it's in S tier, I liked it a lot. A tier, we have Sonic Roboblast 2 Kart, House Flipper, Magic the Gathering, Sonic Frontiers, Against the Storm, Risk of Rain 2, Stellaris, Backpack Hero, Satisfactory, Monster Hunter Rise, Factorio, Atomicrops, Team Fortress 2, specifically the Man vs. Machine mode, Super Punch-Out, RuneScape, which is to say RuneScape 3, the new RuneScape, not old school RuneScape, Mario Party 5, Yakuza Kiwami 1, and Xenoblade Chronicles 1. B tier, we have Dragon's Dogma, which will indefinitely remain the top of the B tier games on this list. You can't call RuneScape 3 the new RuneScape. It is the newest RuneScape. It's been around for a while. My PNG tuber. Oh, is it broken again? Great. Oh, it's just one of those days where you don't want to wake up, everybody sucks. Yeah, Discord is not working correctly right now. Old school RuneScape is actually newer than RuneScape 3. Look, details, alright? Details, details. Alright. Backup PNG tuber. Where is it? I actually have it named Backup PNG tuber in my sources list. Good job, past me. Gotta love starting out with the technical difficulties. Thanks again to Acker for putting together this backup PNG tuber. So, B tier, we've got Dragon's Dogma Dark Arisen, Sonic Adventures DX, Bloodborne, Minecraft, Star Wars Shadows of the Empire, Bloodborne PSX, Mario Party 4, Winnie the Pooh's Home Run Derby, and Sifu. Then down in C tier, we have Xenoblade Chronicles 1, Spelunky 2, Nobody Saves the World. Down in D tier, we have Xenoblade Chronicles 2, Fortnite, Mega Man 9, and GoldenEye Rogue Agent. Now, to be clear, to make it absolutely clear to everyone, I don't want anyone to get this twisted in the slightest. GoldenEye Rogue Agent is undeniably the worst game that I played in 2022. This game fucking sucks. Now you'll never get sponsored by Epic Games. If Epic Games wants me to accept their sponsorship, they better fucking let me... They don't even have to give me Meow Skulls. They just have to let me spend money to acquire Meow Skulls. But the fact that Meow Skulls got put into the fucking Disney Vault forever and ever, I cannot imagine a worse offense, personally. Glad I at least finished the damn level in Rogue Agent. Wow, that level sucked so bad, but holy shit, that slog was rewarded. Because that Oddjob cutscene was truly incredible. Can think of worse offenses that Fortnite did. We're talking personal offenses. Alright, me personally offended by Fortnite because they won't let me buy the cat anymore. So, the next game on the list to be talked about is Soulstone Survivors here, which, the full version is out now. Or full version, it's probably still technically in early access, but what I played was the demo of Soulstone Survivors, so let's keep that in mind. Soulstone Survivors is a Vampire Survivors-like. It is definitely trying to be Vampire Survivors. However, I think the biggest, most notable thing that it does differently, aside from having some changes to the meta progression shenanigans, often for the worse. There being a lot of, like, material grinding expected of you.
Hot take, I think video games are a superposition of good and bad, actually.
Ah. Very hot take. Thank you very much for the resub, sir. Apparently the Oddjob cutscene is unfinished. There's an animation where you fight Oddjob before throwing him over, but the end cutscene they skip to him being over the rails. Wow. Okay, so Soulstone Survivors. Expecting material grinding. Like, oh, you need to grind a bunch of the red gem in order to upgrade this thing. You need some of the orange gem to upgrade this thing, and you need to go out of your way during a run in order to collect the red or the orange gem. I think that's generally a detriment. Because it's like, with Vampire Survivors, with gold, you're going to be getting gold no matter what you're doing, so it rewards you for playing the game however you feel like playing in the moment. While Soulstone Survivors expecting you to, like, specifically go out of your way to complete certain objectives, but it's not even just, like... In Vampire Survivors, if you go out of your way to complete a certain objective, you just unlock a thing. You don't get resources towards unlocking a thing, you just get it. So I think the meta progression stuff is generally worse, but also the active gameplay. I think the addition of a quick dash button, like being able to just dash in a direction to get out of the way of enemy attacks or projectiles, I think that led to the game being designed in a much more active sense and expecting much more fine control out of the player, as opposed to, again, the obvious comparison is Vampire Survivors. Vampire Survivors' simplicity of controls is one of its biggest boons, because, especially for someone like me, some of my least favorite weapons in Vampire Survivors are the weapons that are reliant on you having to be constantly moving, or rely on you, like, aiming your attacks, moving in a specific direction. To me, personally, those are some of the least fun weapons, and Soulstone Survivors has a lot of that kind of thing, and expects you to engage on that level in a much more consistent manner. And also, having individual enemies be more of a threat kind of makes the game feel more like a slog, because you spend so much more time fighting every individual enemy. There were some fun weapons, there are some, like, pretty neat builds that you can do, and I would be interested in trying the full version of the game. But overall, I think it was I think it's alright. From what I heard, I don't think the full version of the game adds enough stuff to overcome that impression that I got from the demo. So, at the moment, until I try it further, Soulstone Survivors is going to hang out down here in the C section. It's not a D, I didn't dislike it, but I think it was kind of mediocre overall. Love when you must get the orb to forge the red orb to forge the blue gem unlock amber fragments exchange to the premium currency. Yeah, a lot of games do that. I feel like a lot of these idle shooters don't understand what made Vampire Survivors so good. It's the particles. Yeah, it's the effects going on. It's not necessarily the moment-to-moment gameplay, but also the moment-to-moment gameplay works out really well, because the simplicity of it, while also, like, being so reliant on you kind of guiding yourself towards the kinds of weapons that you want to use. I know people who like using the knives in Vampire Survivors. And that's great. The fact that you can have this game turn into what is ostensibly more akin to like a traditional twin-stick shooter, or you can have it become halfway to an idle game where you just like set up your impenetrable fortress of holy water and Bibles and garlic and all that nonsense. The fact that you have options, and like there's such a huge variety of builds that you can get in Vampire Survivors, and that's great. And I think that the worst kinds of knockoffs, well, the worst kinds of games that are trying to emulate that playstyle are the ones where, you know, a dominant option ends up making itself more apparent, and it kind of reaches beyond just player preference, and it becomes like, oh, well, if you just want to have a good run, then you just pick this item, and then you win. And every other item doesn't really compare. And Vampire Survivors, like, the way that it dealt with a lot of that is that the weapons that ended up being worse overall are compensated by having some kind of goofy effect. Like the fucking weapon that just makes furniture fall from the sky. That's not a good weapon compared to a lot of the weapons that are available in that game. But it is very funny to make a piano pinball between a bunch of ghosts and skeletons. So, Soulstone Survivors, it's alright. That weapon is probably the best of that category of weapons, even though it's bad overall. Yeah, like, there's some crazy variety to Vampire Survivors. It makes it's a high bar that's being set by the game that defined the genre in a lot of ways. Oh hey, Mega Man X Dive. So let's get a game that I have bad opinions about over and done with right out the gate. I think Mega Man X Dive is terrible. However, it has some funny things in it. The fact that one of the skins, or one of the characters, or is it a skin? I don't remember. What in Mega Man X Dive, there is, I think it's a character skin for Mega Man Volnut, where you can play as evil bank robber Mega Man from Mega Man Legends, and he's got the briefcase full of money and the black armor. I think that is one of the funniest things that has ever been in a Capcom game. I love that a whole lot. And the sunglasses, yeah, it's... The bank robber Mega Man is so good. But the gameplay is fucking non-existent. And it is nothing but a miserable cash grab gacha game. It's not good. It's a bad game. But it does have some fun fan service in it. Unfortunately, fun fan service does not save it from D tier. It's just like, so much of the gameplay is, hey, what if you took out all of the fun parts of playing a Mega Man game? It's pretty amazing how they managed to goof it up so bad. But clearly they did not have their sights set particularly high. It is a gacha game, and I don't like it. Hey, let's get to a game that I do like, Rogue Legacy 2! I played a fuckload of Rogue Legacy 2, and I have some good things and I have some bad things to say about it. Good things. A lot of the player accessibility options in this game are super duper good. And the house rule system is just a fantastic system. I love it a lot, because even outside of the core mechanics of the game, and like progressing through new game pluses and making the game harder that way and all that jazz, the house rules having stuff like you can turn off taking damage when you collide with an enemy. So that way, you will only take damage if you are hit by an enemy attack. So, that changes the way that you play that game entirely. And it makes the game more accessible to players who are not as adept at some of the fine platforming that is expected of you in order to avoid like bumping into enemies sometimes. And on top of having options like that, and like, hey, someone who just is terrible at platforming in general, but they want to see the kind of goofy stuff that is present in the game, hey, how about a house rule that just lets you fly? That's great. I love that. And along with these options, they also have recommended difficulty changes where you can, if you turn off enemy collision damage, it'll be like, hey, if you want to try and balance this out to compensate for making the game easier this way, we recommend increasing the enemy damage output by this much, and stuff like that. I think that is super great. So that stuff, incredible. I think overall the meta progression stuff is done pretty well. I think certain aspects of like trying to get the absolute best gear does get a little too far on the grindy side. And while I do appreciate the option of locking in one of your like options for starter characters, being able to lock one of those in to a character that you will definitely enjoy, because it's like you set like, hey, this character is always going to be this class and have this starter weapon and this spell. Or rather, it's always this class with specified starter weapon, and then you can also pick which spell. And I think that's great. But it does allow me to segue into saying, I think a lot of the classes in that game are not fun to play. And that a lot of that is personal preference. But aside from me, myself, not enjoying a lot of classes in that game, I think there are a lot of aspects of that game that feel particularly designed to a specific playstyle. And there are a lot of classes that do not conform to that playstyle at all. There are so many, like, encounter designs, so many, like, several bosses, even, that feel notably designed towards having a melee weapon. And not just having a melee weapon, but having a melee weapon that functions in a more traditional sense. So the cannon, the pirate's cannon, while it is balanced out by having this projectile option, I think a lot of the classes that do not conform to the typical expected playstyle of the game can be mechanically powerful, but it also feels like they end up encouraging a particular playstyle that does not actively engage with the finer tuned aspects of these encounter designs. So, it's not a perfect game. Do I still like it? I still like it a lot. I think Rogue Legacy is still gonna fit up into the high A's at least. But I think that it has a lot of problems, and also the process of trying to go through and like max out everything ended up getting super grindy, and a lot of runs I ended up just like save scumming of, well, I didn't get any characters that had a decent gold multiplier, so I'm just going to immediately throw this character into the dumpster and re-roll. And not being able to like have some more control over that you unlock over time, similar to the way that you can unlock, like, you can set one of the characters to be of a specific class with a specific spell so that you have a more guaranteed way of having a run that you feel good about. I think it would be nice to have that kind of control over stuff like what modifiers you start with and so on. So that would be too overpowered, but you know, that's the whole point of the game after a certain point, is just being drastically overpowered. So I'm putting it up here. I'm putting it somewhere in this pile of medium A's. Still highly recommend it if you enjoy that style of game. A lot of the bosses, especially like the hard mode versions of the bosses, were quite cool and a lot of fun to interact with, and the ways that you can navigate the terrain after you unlock all of the abilities and stuff. It's fun. It's great. I like it, but it's got problems. Like that they added Dynamo to X-Dive. Yeah, there's some really great fan service in Mega Man X-Dive, but I think it is a bad game. Surprised to see Fortnite in D tier. They won't let me buy Meow Skulls anymore, so it's in D tier. Was it the voice actor of the main villain man in Xenoblade Chronicles 2 that got it into S tier? It was almost everything except for the gameplay that got Xenoblade Chronicles 2 into S tier. And the gameplay got it into D tier. You know, some of the voice acting falls pretty flat in Xenoblade 2, but the story, the world building, like the character writing, the game looks great. There's so many things that I absolutely love about this game, but actually playing it, way down here. No. Yeah. Stray. It's a game where you get to play as a little kitty cat. S tier, baby. Let's go. Easy peasy. I think the core gameplay of Stray is not... I think actually exploring the environment and, like, the actual process of solving puzzles and completing challenging encounters in that game, I think generally Stray is pretty weak in terms of, like, the gameplay, the challenges that you are expected to overcome. However, I think the aesthetics of Stray are very powerful. I think the game looks great. I think the game sounds great. And the world is interesting, like this world where you're in this city that's been completely sealed off from the world. There are no humans left. You've just got robots, and the robots have kind of formed, like, not like a cyberpunkish kind of society in this city. And the main threat is just, like, this biological organism that we created to eat trash, and it's just overtaking this entire city, and it's such a huge threat to all of the citizens, because the citizens are robots, so they will get eaten. I think there's a lot of really cool stuff going on in Stray. I like the story that it tells. Again, I love the aesthetics. Like, exploring the environments in general is fun. And, like, finding the little spots where you can, like, curl up and take a nap, and then the game will, like, slowly pan to present you with, like, a perfect wallpaper. That stuff is really great. But it's not quite as severe an example as Xenoblade 2, but it's kind of a situation where, like, the game as a whole is great, but actually playing through it for the purpose of, like, overcoming the challenges that are presented to you, I think it is kind of weak. But it made me feel emotions. I almost cried a little at the end. I got incredibly spooked towards the middle. Overall great. I liked Stray a lot. I cannot conceive why it was up for, like, the Game of the Year stuff. I don't think it was that good, but I liked it a lot. Rated Bloodborne B tier. So, I don't want to go over my entire rant about, I don't want to go over my entire Bloodborne rant again, but Bloodborne is my second least favorite From Software game. There's a lot of things about Bloodborne that I don't love, and I don't think the stuff that I like about Bloodborne outweighs that, and I want to make it quite clear. Bloodborne in B tier is a personal opinion. If I were to try and rate Bloodborne more objectively, it would definitely be an A tier, maybe an S tier, but my personal experience with Bloodborne is I would rather just play any of the Dark Souls again. I would rather play Sekiro. I would rather play Metal Wolf Chaos. I don't know. I didn't even get to the spiders. Yeah, there's a lot of things about Bloodborne that are very bad for me. But also, just, like, at a core gameplay level, I don't love the switch weapons, and having to farm for not just your healing, but for your ammunition, for, like, all your guns and all of your special abilities also use the Quicksilver bullets. Having to farm for that stuff is fucking garbage. That is a bullshit game mechanic. Nobody's gonna argue with me about that either. So, Bloodborne, got a lot of problems. I don't love it. I put it in B tier. I will explicitly say that I like Bloodborne less than Sonic Adventure 1. I ain't scared. Fight me. Just don't get hit, then you don't have to grind. Ha ha ha! Ah, get good. Ah, you're funny. Potionomics. I know you're joking. It's fine. I'm not mad at you. It's okay. Potionomics. Weird Recetard date sim. I like it. I like it a lot. I didn't love it enough to immediately continue to sink the amount of time required to, like, get deep on the Potionomics. Potionomics is a really cool game. It's got some interesting, like, potion making mechanics, like sending adventurers out and having to, like, oh, I gotta keep a couple of spare health potions for my adventurers so that they can get me cool and newer stuff, and I gotta make sure that how much do I want to gamble on getting some hot new ingredients, because if I fuck up the gambling on the hot new ingredients, then I'm gonna get less ingredients overall for a little bit, and all of this being on a hard time limit. Like, I think Potionomics is a fantastic game. but it's a lot. It is a time black hole. It is very easy. My Potionomics stream went for 7 hours. Like the start of Potionomics, but it felt like it started dragging on more and more as time went on because you had to spend more and more time each day. Yeah, so it is a game. It has the aesthetics of a much lighter game than it is. Potionomics is a very dense game, and you are expected to put a lot of brain power, a lot of thought, a lot of planning, and a lot of time actually carrying out each individual task. And that amount of expected investment, both time and mental wavelength, it does drop the rating a decent amount for me because it feels weird saying this as someone that plays so many idle games and someone who spent so much time on RuneScape. It, in a weird way, is a game that feels like the act of doing work. Now, when it doesn't feel that way, the character writing is great. I really love interacting with all of the different characters. There's fun, there's a lot of fun writing stuff. There's some neat story stuff going on. The game looks great. There's a lot of fun stuff to do. But when the act of actually playing it can feel stressful in a non-fun way. So I like it. I think it's overall good, but you definitely have to know what you're getting into. And I think I'm gonna put it at a low A. Where's the Kirby Buffet game? I didn't play it, and I didn't stream it. So it's double not getting on the list. Hey! Power Wash Simulator! Hey, it's a game where you are in a virtual world doing actual real-life work. You are washing a surface. You are doing chores. Are there any games that you streamed but didn't play? There was the one time where I had Slinko play Factorio instead while I was playing something else, but no. 2 Xenoblade 2s. So, Xenoblade 2 in D tier and Xenoblade 1 in C tier these are the gameplay halves of Xenoblade. And up here is everything else about the first 2 Xenoblades. Okay, Power Wash Simulator. I fucking love Power Wash Simulator. I initially picked it up as just something goofy to play while I was on vacation down in Florida, because, oh, you're down in Florida, why don't you go to the beach or go to a theme park or something? I knew I was just gonna end up spending a lot of time hanging out with family and stuff, so during my downtime, I wanted a game that I could just play on my laptop, super low impact, low energy, and Power Washer Simulator hooked me. Because while having the satisfactory feeling of wow, look how clean I am making this thing, that innate sensation of whoa, look at how it was dirty and now it's so clean. So you've got that feeling on top of having this completionist nonsense going on in my head of, like, the act of seeking out those last couple of splotches of dirt could be so, like, investing. Like, I could be so invested in those moments, while, as a whole, the process of just slowly working my way through washing off a house, or a skate park, or a boat, or a car, or a spy plane, or whatever, that process could feel so meditative. And it is such a good game to zone out to, and it's a great stream game for if I've got stuff to talk about, like if I want to talk about a bunch of anime or movies or shows that I'm watching or something. It is a fantastic podcast game. It is fantastic for me to just have this game where I'm just doing my thing, and I can just, like, the words can just fall out of my mouth while I am just passively washing off a thing. Power Wash Sim, aw, you're so sweet. Potionomics, hello, human resources. Oh god. Yeah, so it's a different feeling. The fact that Power Wash Simulator, like, innately, it has a speedrun mode. But the fact that it does not innately have a timer going, the fact that it feels so designed to be a relaxing experience. And I know a weird amount of, like, big game folks talked about how they found Power Wash Simulator super stressful because they were so actively seeking out the dirt to clean, and, like, that moment of, like, oh shit, I don't know where the last thing is, and how to some people that ended up being a stressful experience. I understand it, but it definitely comes across as a bit weird in comparison to my own experience of just, like, complete brain turn-off, relaxation, zen kind of experience. So I like Power Wash Simulator a lot. You know, I guess your mileage may vary, but if you want a game that you can just fucking zone out to, if you're watching something on the other monitor and you just kind of want to waggle the mouse and probably clean something, great. Fantastic experience. And also if you're into, you know, ASMR, power washing, cleaning, knife sharpening videos, and so on, it's great for that. I'm putting Power Wash Simulator somewhere in the S tier. Maybe I'll shuffle it around somewhere, but it's an S tier game for sure. Attack the dirt with a knife. I mean, sometimes you gotta scrape dirt off of a thing. Oh god. We got a whole pile of mediocre to bad experiences piling up here, don't we? Mega Man Network Transmission, winner of the Most Unpleasant Sound Effect in a Video Game award of the mushroom attack sound effect being like... How did someone describe it in chat again? Someone ironically jacking off was the sound effect that the mushrooms would make. Yeah, Mega Man Network Transmission. It is a worse video game than Mega Man 9. It is quite bad. The concept of having to farm for weapon energy is nothing new for the Mega Man franchise, but having to farm for being able to do something like double jump ends up being a problem. having to farm for the double jump chip, having to farm for, like, all of these different chips. It is quite awful, and the platforming feels bad. The Mega Buster has never felt more useless. And a lot of the chips also just feel bad, and it also expects you to still do the Mega Man Battle Network thing of you gotta wait and then select which chips you want from a random selection of chips in, like, a traditional 2D Mega Man game. And it has some truly terrible boss design. It's quite bad. It is a very bad video game. Wild how easy it is to miss the good ending because of the chip farming needed. Yeah, I'm pretty sure you need the double jump or something like that in order to access the good ending. It's bad. It's dumb. It's a bad video game. It is low D tier. It is down there with GoldenEye Rogue Agent. It is quite terrible. And it's quite terrible in a lot of different ways, too. It's quite impressive. Because at least, even though Mega Man 9 made me mad, it felt more like a cohesively designed video game. Mega Man Network Transmission, they didn't know what the fuck they were doing. You need double jump and the dash so you don't go down a hole too early. Yeah, that's probably correct. Alright, enough talking about a bad Mega Man game. I didn't play any good Mega Man games last year, huh? Damn. Bummer. Hey, Klonoa! Wahoo! Klonoa... Let's do this correctly. Alright, let's talk about Klonoa 1 first. So, Klonoa 1 felt like an early PS2 platformer, in all of the best and worst ways. A lot of the puzzles felt pretty fundamental. It felt like so much of the design of the game and the world went towards trying to figure out how to make it work on a PlayStation 2. Mighty Number 9 was 2021. So, Klonoa, it felt like a PlayStation 1 or an N64 platformer that made the jump purely because of the timing of its development, more so than, like, I'm not saying that this is what happened, but I'm saying this is how it comes across to me. It's a mascot platformer. It's got one of the best mascot characters in all of video games. I love the Cabot. Klonoa is a fantastic character. But actually playing through it, free money! I love Klonoa. Klonoa is adorable. I think the world designs are pretty fantastic. Klonoa should go to S tier for the ad, but Susan, I have Klonoa. Hey baby, I want Klonoa. Oh, right. Yeah, video game ads were bad back then. Play Pikuniku. I will. I will play Pikuniku on stream this year. At some point. Once you've got Klonoa, you won't want to get rid of it. You're right. Klonoa is probably quite expensive for, like, hard copies these days. So, actually playing Klonoa in a lot, like, it is a mascot platformer with a gimmick. And the gimmick is, like, grabbing enemies and throwing enemies, or using the enemies for double jumps and stuff like that. And it made for some interesting puzzles, but overall, it was okay. It was alright. It was fine. But then you get to one of the most heart-wrenching endings to a video game ever. Just truly truly sad was the ending of Klonoa 1. And it is undeniably memorable in that regard, at the very least. But then you compare it to Klonoa 2. And then Klonoa 2 is a fantastic sequel, because it takes the core mechanic, and it embraces what the system that it jumped to is capable of. So you've got so much more going on with the level design, you've got a lot more going on with the bosses, you've got a lot to it. It just feels like it took the prototype that was the first game and made it more fun and cooler, and there's so much more going on. And basically everything was so much more refined. It's an incredible sequel. So it's I liked both of the Klonoa games. I like both of the Klonoa games quite a bit. They're cute, they're fun, they're not too hard. They have like this one central gimmick that they do manage to get the gimmick to like stretch across the entire course of the game in a way that doesn't feel like it outstays its welcome. And then also like the snowboarding levels in Klonoa 2 were pretty fun. Klonoa 2, like it just takes everything from the first game and makes it better. So both of these games are great. Klonoa 2 is going to hang out up here in the S tier. Klonoa 1, a high A, I think. It is a solid mascot platformer experience down here, and then up here it is a pretty great mascot platformer experience. Wahoo! I love the Cabot. Good times. Almost made me cry. How dare you. Payday 2! An interesting game to talk about now that Payday 3 has finally been formally announced. They mentioned, what was it, like 2 years ago now, that they were going to stop development of Payday 2 and go full throttle on Payday 3. And then I guess they needed more money, because then they actually ramped up DLC, like paid DLC development for Payday 2. There's still a bunch of paid DLC for Payday 2 that I have not gotten into. But it does struggle it's not necessarily a problem with the game itself, but I didn't play this game as much as I wanted to play this game this year, or 2022, because it's 100 fucking gigabytes. So I'm looking forward to Payday 3 being a little more optimized, and also being on a better engine that allows them to kind of evolve the gameplay a little more than what Payday 2 has going on. Even after all of its years of development, Payday 2 always felt like it had so many constraints put on what kinds of cool stuff that was that they were capable of putting into the game. They should put it on a worse engine as a joke. Well, it might be worse for a little bit, especially considering that it's not going to have the absurd amount of content present in the game. But I'm hoping that they do more story stuff in Payday 3, which is weird for anyone who, like, just played Payday 2 as, like, a goofy co-op shooter, just hop in, do a couple of heists, whatever. But Payday games have some cool stuff going on with the plot. I want them to do more live action stuff. I loved the live action stuff for Payday 2. But, okay, talking about it as a game on the tier list for games that I streamed in 2022. Meow, 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 meow. Payday 2 is one of the best of the 4-player, hop in, do a couple of missions with your buddies kinds of games. It has like a crazy amount of different missions. A lot of those missions do play quite differently. And there's fun stuff to do in those missions. I think of like Meltdown as a pretty exciting and fun mission where you have to ferry a bunch of nukes using like these you can use this cool like bootlegger car to get the nukes around, or you could use fucking forklifts, and there's like all these police barricades and stuff. And then you've got some of the missions that are much more stealth-oriented, which can be fun and exciting. They usually ended up just being more frustrating than they were worth. I hope they make the stealth better in Payday 3. But it has a good variety, and I think just the core gameplay of just like shooting a lot of cops with whatever weird build you've got going on, with like a large machine. You got a LMG, you got a minigun, you got a rocket launcher, you got dual wielding shotguns. You got a pistol and a fucking .50 caliber sniper rifle. Wish Payday 2 was better to play. So, it's got a lot of problems. The onboarding process is pretty weak, especially, I was guilty of this as well, of there being so many things that make the game substantially more fun to play that are locked behind, like, player level progression, I think is a pretty tangible detriment. Because you want a sense of progression, but using the starter weapons was just not fun. The starter weapons were just bad. And not bad in an interesting way where you can, like, specifically build around them to make them more fun. Weapons were usually just bad, and resulted in a bad gameplay experience. And the process of getting to a high enough level, unlocking more of these guns, that process, if you are being guided by a friend who is particularly experienced in the game, also was easily, like, could easily end up not being fun. Because if you want to try and get to, like, unlocking these player options that make engaging with the core gameplay more fun, you would want to take the most efficient approach. The most efficient approach usually wasn't particularly fun, but people who have, you know, hundreds of hours in the game, they know exactly how to complete this stealth heist, they know exactly how to, like, all of the safe spots and all of the tricks and gimmicks to, like, try and optimize their experience gain, because there is a certain point in the progression through, like, trying to unlock everything where you just fall into a groove doing this kind of thing. And so it's what it needs is, it needs an onboarding system more akin to something like Monster Hunter. Monster Hunter's onboarding experience is so much better than so many, like... And I think it also needs either earlier access to the things that make it more fun, or it needs faster progression, easier progression to the stuff, to, like, getting to the point where you are comfortable falling into the core gameplay loop of going through these heists. Actually progressing through the story mode of Payday 2 is something that I have wanted to do. It's hard to try and, like, not only to, like, commit the time and get 3 of your friends to also commit the time to doing it, but following the story progression of Payday 2 seems like a pretty engaging way to engage with that system. Either way, it's a very complicated game if I try and just condense it down to, like, a core experience. But my personal experience is that I enjoy Payday 2 as a whole. I think it's got a lot of problems, and I think it's not as beginner-friendly as it should be. Especially considering how, like, secondary that main story to follow is. Like, it should be so much easier to onboard a new player. But there's also the problem of, you gotta buy all the fucking DLC if you want access to all the cool toys, because so much of the cool stuff is locked behind DLC. When it goes on sale, DLC will end up being like 90% off a lot of the time, but that's still an investment that I don't think a new player should have to make. So, as an enfranchised player, I still enjoy Payday 2. I think it's fun, but the new player experience is weak. So I'm gonna dump it at the low A's. How about that? So, oh my goodness. Talk about games that I got a lot to say about. Hey, Pokemon Scarlet's Pokemon Violet. I played Pokemon Scarlet. The new Pokemon games are good. I'll say it. I'm not scared. I'm a brave boy. I'll come right out and say it. I think the new Pokemon games are pretty fun to play. I think there is a lot of value in the things that they have changed and the improvements that they have made. I think overall, if they were to follow through and innovate and and work on the stuff that they did with Scarlet and Violet, I think there is so much value in all of that new stuff. I think a lot of the new Pokemon designs are pretty great. I like all the starters. I like the evolutions. There's a lot of very fun Pokemon, and there's like a lot of interesting regional variants going on. I don't think the Crystallize mechanic is particularly good. You do get an orb to do it, which is always wonderful, but I didn't love the gimmick. But I do love just walking, like, zooping around on my dumb motorcycle Pokemon and catching new Pokemon and just happening upon, like, oh, I'll go check out a gym. Sure, what's going on at the gym? Oh, the weird Team Star, like, the fucking gang battle where you fight a million Pokemon and then fight a Pokemon that's a big truck. Oh, that's neat. I do need to play more of it, but I think it is the most engaged I have been in a Pokemon game since, like, X and Y. Pokemon is a disaster, but sometimes there's a funny little guy, so it's impossible to say whether it's S or D. I think it's an A. I think it is a fun, engaging experience. I think there is so much to do, so much to see, and I think they do a lot of cool, interesting things with it. But they really gotta put in some more work on the next one. If they just take the framework of what Scarlet and Violet are, and just work off of that. I don't want them to start from scratch. I want them to take this formula, I want them to take what kind of game and what kind of experience Scarlet and Violet are, and I want them to make it better. Because this one needed more time in the oven, y'all. Even aside from, you know, so many of those glitches that come from the multiplayer mode, so many, like, the performance is just so rough in so many places that it really shouldn't be. It needed more work. It is like, it's a 7.5 out of 10 at best, but I like it. It's a 7.5 that I liked a lot. Like the stuff that's going on with the different characters is fun. It's hard for me to properly articulate stuff to say about the game that people have not already heard or already made opinions on. But the core thing for me to say about it is I really, really enjoyed walking around, catching them all, and when I would go and do, like, one of the gym battles, when I would go do one of the Team Star thing, when I would go fight a Titan, that stuff was fun. Right? It had problems, obviously. But it was fun, and I liked it. So I'm tossing it into A, somewhere mid to high A. I want to see what they do after this. Also, I didn't play Arceus. Maybe I also would have loved Arceus. Maybe I'll pick up Arceus and see what that's all about at some point. But I liked Scarlet and Violet a lot. And let's bring it back down with Mario Party 7. Mario Party 7 is my least favorite of the Mario Party GameCube games because there's just... I don't think there's a fun board in Mario Party 7. I think all of the boards in Mario Party 7 are bad, actually. There's not just a regular map. There's not just, like, a Hootenanny map or a Wispy Woods or whatever. It's all gimmicks, and the gimmicks are not good. It did not have the charm of the core Mario Party experience that I was looking for. Maybe at some point this year, I will check out Mario Party Superstars, or maybe they will release the sequel to Mario Party Superstars and I'll buy that, because Nintendo is allergic to making DLC for anything that isn't Mario Kart. But Mario Party 7's got a lot of problems. It felt like it had so many more luck-based minigames and minigames where you can fail through no fault of your own. There were just a billion board events happening all the time, and there's so little player control. Every bad thing that people say about Mario Party games of just like, oh, it doesn't even matter, people just get bonus stars at the end, win for no reason, oh, I'll just hit chance time and win for no reason. All of those complaints are at their absolute peak in Mario Party 7. It is not a good Mario Party game. And as such, it's gonna hang out down here in the C tiers. Because I like 4, I like 5, I like 6. Skill issue, chance time can be timed. Every single one of those maps. Every map in Mario Party 7 is bad. Which Mario Party is your favorite? Probably 5. It's either 4, 5, or 6, I think. But I think it's probably 5. 5 had a good balance between, like, gimmicky boards and board gimmicks. I think it refined the orb system in a really fun way. And I recall there being a lot of fun minigames in it. I'm not a huge fan of the N64 Mario parties. Especially, like, the way that we played through the Mario parties on streams before, of, like, starting with the GameCube ones and then going back to the N64 ones, that dichotomy was just like, wow, Yoshi can wear a cowboy hat. That's the best part about any of the first 3 Mario Party games. Yoshi being able to wear a hat does not make Mario Party 2 a good game. And it's the only Mario Party we played that has a full set of good minigames. I like the minigames in 4, 5, and 6. I liked the GameCube minigames more on average. More Mario Parties need practicing on the rules menu. I think Mario Party Superstars lets you do that. Mario Party Superstars needs... They just need to make DLC for Mario Party Superstars. I need to play that. It seems great. Anyways. I didn't play any of the N64 Mario parties last year, so... It doesn't matter. Get them out of here. Get them out of the discussion. It's time to talk about a good Mega Man game. I did play a good Mega Man game last year. Let's go. Mario Party Superstars is the best one because Yoshi gets railed in it. Yeah. Yeah, he does. There it is. Okay. Hey, a good Mega Man game. Mega Man Battle Network 1. It has... I think Mega Man Battle Network 1 is a fantastic first entry in a series. Because it establishes all of the stuff that matters about the series as a whole right there in the first game. There is so much to love about the Mega Man Battle Network series. That core gameplay is just fun as a whole. But the worst thing that I could say about Mega Man Battle Network 1 is that it is the first one. All of the subsequent Mega Man Battle Network games do cool stuff, and it, like, they iterate on the formula. There are the weirdo transformations, there's the dark chips, there's just more chips, more combos, there's the weird, like, inventory management upgrade system, where you can put in an upgrade that makes Mega Man tell a knock-knock joke. It's great. Battle Network 1 as your first Battle Network is a good intro. If you played 2, 3, 4, 5, or 6, first one is a massive step back. Yeah, so that's why I'm, like, kind of qualifying a lot of these statements. It is, like, it has a lot of problems. Obviously. A lot of the problems being, there being so little control over your character progression. I think that is definitely a problem. A lot of the chips are just kind of bad, and I think the chip balance gets better in general over the course of the series. I like Battle Network 1 a lot, but from all of my memories of playing through the series as a children, I'm only going to like subsequent games even more. So, when is the Battle Network Collection coming out on Steam? I think it's like Mega Man Battle Network Collection Volume 1, which is 1, 2, and 3 is coming out on Steam sometime. April? I don't know if I'm gonna wait until April. I got a lot of games to play. I could maybe wait until April. But Battle Network 1, I think my experience with it and like what it is as that first entry in the series, I'm fine putting it up in the A's. Ooh, everybody ready for a B tier? It's V Rising. V Rising had so much potential. If you don't remember this game at all, this is a top-down, kind of action RPG survival crafting game. Where it has all of the typical trappings of one of those kinds of survival games where you start out and you chop down a couple of trees and you make some shitty weapons, and then you can use those shitty weapons and tools to gather better materials and venture into more dangerous areas to unlock better materials and craft better weapons and all that jazz. But it did some cool stuff on top of that. Being able to seek out specific bosses, and like when you defeat that boss, then you get a new power, a new like spell or passive ability that you can utilize to, you know, do better. Sometimes when you would fight one of these bosses, you unlock new building blueprints or new crafting recipes to further progress through the game. And I think those core systems generally worked out pretty well. And like Burke is saying, it starts out really strong because you are more regularly capable of making actual progress. But as the game progresses, the expectations of the player get tighter and tighter. You like more and more is expected of you in more unreasonable ways. So much of tiering up is doing the thing that you already did, but now it's harder. Yeah, it did not innovate the gameplay over the course of the game in enough interesting ways. There weren't like fun and interesting ways of generating resources passively, which I think is something that is generally expected of these kinds of survival games. Sure, there are some materials that you can like grow in your garden and stuff, and you could make some vampire thralls and send them out into the world, but sending your thralls out into the world would often require going out and doing a shitload of grinding yourself in order to be able to craft them a suit of gear, like a new set of gear, and then they would have like so that they would have higher chances of completing the missions. And then it takes real time for those missions to complete, which fucking sucked. Having to wait actual real-life hours for your stupid idiots to go do their stupid missions. It felt like a lot of the game's core mechanics were more oriented towards PvP, try hard, like, oh, we're gonna be competitive about this. We're gonna go and we're gonna attack other people's castles to steal all their shit. Oh, we're gonna grief these other players so that we can get cool stuff from the other players. It felt like there were so many mechanics oriented towards that kind of gameplay that just trying to play it, like, as a survival RPG, either solo or with a couple of friends, the balance did not work out. Kind of felt like it was originally designed to be a mobile game that would charge money to reduce timers to get easier resources. I don't know about that. It definitely feels like a game that had a lot of really great stuff going for it early on, but just the balance gets so much worse over the course of it that it becomes a quite disappointing experience. And I don't think the fun of the first dozen hours or so really compensates for that. Needed a better director? I think so, yeah. You get to the last area and guys instant kill you from off screen. Yeah, it's a C. It's maybe one of the most disappointing games that I played on stream last year, or that I played last year in general. Strong start, but it stumbles. It stumbles pretty quick. Disappointing. Across the Obelisk! So, me and Lawyer Dog had a lot of bad things to say about Across the Obelisk, especially in comparison to so many of the other games of its genre, comparing Across the Obelisk to Slay the Spire or Monster Train or those, like, strong examples of this card drafting RPG with, like, meta progression and stuff like that. Like, roguelite deck builder. I think this game makes a lot of bad first impressions. And I think there is a sweet spot for this game in terms of overall progression, where you have yet to truly assemble, like, a proper team and all of the meta progression that you need to win consistently and win reliably. I think the early game is weak because it feels like you have so little control and so little opportunity to, like, actually find success. It really feels like you have to go in knowing exactly what you're doing ahead of time, and you have to get the right resources, the right cards, the right items. I think the first impressions of this game are pretty weak. And I think once you hit a certain point in the meta progression where your character, like, you are now capable of, like, putting together a party, like, putting together decks where you are winning the entire run consistently and reliably, I think that also starts to, like, get kinda weak later on, and I don't think the New Game Plus, like, higher difficulty options are super well crafted. But there's a sweet spot between those 2 points where I really, really like this game. V-Rising, good start, bad mid-game. Across the Obelisk, bad start, good mid-game. Yes. I think once you start getting the swing of things, and you have a little bit of that meta progression, I think that is the sweet spot for this game. Now, there's a lot of problems with it. I think I like having the party of 4 in the context of playing a multiplayer game. Because you can, like, cooperatively, like, playing it multiplayer, playing it with an actual team of people. I think that stuff is really fun and interesting. I think that is a really good twist on the genre, because then you can end up with, like, players who are building their decks in ways that you might not consider. And if you're playing solo, you do have more control over the team as a whole to, like, specifically synergize around one strategy, which tends to be powerful. Like, poison builds tend to be super powerful because there's a lot of things that every class of character can do with poison. But, like, having this... It ends up having more of a board game kind of feel than these games tend to have. Like, Slay the Spire, to me, does not often have a board game kind of feel. Across the Obelisk, when I was playing with Lawyer Dog, kinda gave me some similar vibes to something like a Gloomhaven, where you are cooperatively engaging in this game, but because the way that you would play some of these characters is different than the way that other people would play those characters, you end up with more interesting things going on. Playing it single player you end up spending too much time micromanaging every character, I think. And so, once you reach that point where you are winning more consistently, you have more concrete strategies for each individual character, I think that's where it starts to get weak, because then a lot of that micromanaging ends up feeling more like busy work than fine-tuning. So I think Across the Obelisk is cool. I like it, and I think it is a worthwhile game of its genre to try and play with friends. You want to play it multiplayer. I've played a lot of it single player. I'm probably going to play more of it single player, but I think it is much better as a multiplayer experience than it is as a single player experience. I'm going to put it at a high B. I think if you like roguelike deck builder, not roguelike, but roguelite deck builders, and that kind of game, Slay the Spire, Monster Train, if you like that kind of game, I would recommend picking up Across the Obelisk and trying it with a couple of friends. So, that's Across the Obelisk. GoldenEye 007. Oh, I see Xenoblade 2 is at the bottom as well as the top. Yeah. Xenoblade 2 and Xenoblade 1 are both on the list twice, because I couldn't let the frustrations with their gameplay fly without being pointed out. GoldenEye 007! Now, let's get this clear right out the gate. I played GoldenEye 007 last year with, like, a specialized set of mods and stuff where it didn't change, like, anything within the game, but I played it with mouse and keyboard controls, and I played it widescreen, and I fucking loved it. I had a fantastic time playing through GoldenEye 007 on... What's the highest difficulty other than 007? That's Secret Agent, right? Or Special Agent. I played it on the highest difficulty. I liked it a lot. I think I would highly recommend seeking out a way to play through the N64 007 on... I don't remember the name of the the setup that Acker gave me the setup for Perfect Dark, and I just used that same setup for GoldenEye. But I think it's a fantastic game. I really enjoyed the variety of the missions. I loved all the different weapons. I liked goofing around with the Clob, even though it's awful. But there's a good variety of weapons. There's a great variety of levels and objectives. And the way that you progress through these levels can feel so different. Like, some of the levels are like a mad scramble to try and complete specific objectives as quickly as you can, while some levels it does feel more like either exploratory, it can feel more like a stealthy kind of thing, where you really do want to try and avoid getting into some kind of big scrap. The 1964 emulator mouse and keyboard is the setup that Acker gave me. Yeah, I had a really great time playing through that. There are some of the objectives on the highest difficulty that really do frustrate, and there are definitely some moments where you will fuck up or fail and feel as though there was not a good... There were some times where I would fail, and after the fact, it would be, okay, I could rationalize why doing that thing failed me, but sometimes you would end up in a situation of just like, well, what the fuck was I supposed to do about that? Come on. So, it's not perfect, but I had a fantastic time playing through GoldenEye 007. I mean, yeah, nostalgia. Nostalgia is going to put in a lot of heavy lifting here, but I think having the mouse and keyboard controls mitigate a lot of that frustration. Oh, but Hat, the mission with the rocket ship, you spent, like, fucking hours on that, and you got really frustrated at it. Yeah, but it felt like it was supposed to be that kind of tangible challenge. It didn't feel like it was out of place unreasonably hard. It was just really hard. It's not a game that communicates things like level design, goals, direction very well. I think it definitely feels like it comes from an era of video games where that kind of thing is just weaker as a whole. Have I played Perfect Dark before? One of the most watched clips on my Twitch channel is me fucking up a Perfect Dark level. Yeah, I played Perfect Dark also. I had never played through the Perfect Dark story mode as a kid. I never had Perfect Dark as a kid. So playing through it with mouse and keyboard controls was my first experience, like going the whole way through Perfect Dark, and I enjoyed it quite a bit. I think I liked GoldenEye more than Perfect Dark, but you gotta take into consideration that it could be nostalgia seeping into my opinions. But I had a really great time playing through GoldenEye 007 with mouse and keyboard controls. Time for Perfect Dark Zero. I had played Perfect Dark Zero. That was one of the first games that I got on my Xbox 360, and it was fine. The Moonraker level was shoot this random console to find a secret vent that lets you survive this room. Yeah, it was... It had some older game jank to it. It's not perfect, but I liked it a lot. Maybe not that high. High A. It's definitely up there. I liked it. I had a great time with it. But again, don't forget this is me playing it with mouse and keyboard controls. If I played it with a controller, I probably would have found it much more frustrating as a whole. Hey! Speaking of frustrating games, wow, kinda ending this tier list with a bit of a whimper here. Because we've got Yakuza 3 up next. The worst Yakuza game is still a Yakuza game, it's still alright, but... oh man! It really is, undeniably, the worst of the Yakuza series. I think... so... Yakuza 3 still has a lot of things that make the Yakuza games appealing. But it does everything worse than every other Yakuza game. The combat is notably worse. The side quests are more difficult to follow, worse written on average, and this is a problem that I have with a lot of the older styled Yakuza games, of being able to fail a side quest sucks. And Yakuza 3 had so many ways to fail the side quests. I think it had more failable side quests than any other Yakuza games. The chase sequences are straight up not fair. Yeah, there's a lot of bad minigames. The core gameplay is not as good. The main story is not as good. A lot of times in the main story of Yakuza 3, it's like, oh right, we had this character. And characters are just straight up forgotten about, and then it's like, oh wait, hang on, this guy was supposed to be doing something. He got killed. Someone killed him off screen. It has a first half of a story and a second half of a story, and they do not overlap. Yeah. I think that establishing Kiryu's life with the orphans is really important. I think that puts in a lot of work and a lot of, like... it sets up a lot of emotional attachment to the orphans that feels relevant for the rest of the series. And I think there is value in that, and I think that is like where most of the value of playing through Yakuza 3 yourself would come in. But they overstay their welcome. You spend too much time with those orphans. There is definitely... It feels like so much of the early parts of the story are setting up a smaller scale story. Of, like, Kiryu is settled down and he's dealing with smaller problems. He's dealing with locals in a place where he's not familiar. And I think that stuff works pretty well. Like, the supporting cast of characters... pretty great. Rikia, the man with the spirit of Okinawa on his back. Love Rikia. One of the best, like, friend characters in the entire series. And like, there's a lot to love about Okinawa and the time that Kiryu spends in Okinawa. But it doesn't mesh with the government conspiracy fighting a million dudes outside the Diet building, fucking helicopter gunning down the fucking Millennium Tower. It doesn't work as a whole. It just doesn't work. So, there's still some good in it. I'm not going to say that it is flat out a bad game, but it is undeniably the worst Yakuza game that is part of the main series. You know, there's Dead Souls, which I haven't played, but I've heard a lot of bad things about it. But it is a bad Yakuza game. But then, if you can get through it one way or another, you can watch just like a story summary online. That's fine. You can watch someone else play through it. That's fine. I'm not gonna say you gotta play through Yakuza 3 yourself, but once you get past Yakuza 3, Yakuza 4, great. Yakuza 5, great. Yakuza 6, I liked it. Probably pretty great. Been a while. Not as memorable. And then Yakuza 7 is one of my favorite turn-based RPGs of all time. But you got this road bump. You got the Yakuza 3 road bump that you gotta get over one way or another. It's a high C. Maybe a mid C. Nah, it's a high C. There's still stuff to like about it. There's still stuff I like about it, but wow. It is the worst one of those. Joe Kazama. Just look up the cutscenes on YouTube. There's some stuff that's worth seeing that's not just in the cutscenes that you'll see if you're playing. Whatever. I couldn't even find the fucking ice cream quest, so what am I saying? The final game on the list of games I streamed in 2022 is a game that I barely remembered existed. Warner Brothers Multiverses. It's a serviceable platform fighter. I don't know. I don't know what all to say about Multiverses. It's weird. It's... It's... Rain Dog is cute. Yeah, I had some fun playing it, but I think the perk system is just so unwelcome in a platform fighter. I think being so reliant on 2v2 does give it more of an identity to itself, but I do think that it weakens the moment-to-moment gameplay as a whole. And I think there are a lot of... I think the feeling of the way that it plays is not quite right. It's not quite there. It's almost how you want a platform fighter to play, but not quite. And it feels like there were a lot of concessions made for the perk system and for it being a 2v2 game. Like, you can do some pretty fun movement. There's a lot of spikes, there's dunks, there's like juggles, there's fun synergies, setups, and payoffs that you can do between yourself and your partner, but Multiverses takes place in the bad Space Jam timeline where LeBron failed. Don't think it should be above B, but I think a lot of you thinking it doesn't feel quite right is not being used to it. Sure. If I put a lot more time into Multiverses, or put some, like, very concentrated time and effort into, like, very distinctly learning how the game is supposed to play and feel, I think I would have a better time with it. And I didn't have a bad time with it. But it wasn't quite what I wanted it to be. But I'm the kind of dork that, like, Project M was my prize fighter, my platform fighter above all else. And there's just never gonna be a game that feels quite like Project M. And that's okay. Every character has a little bit of Melee Yoshi, a little bit of Brawl Game & Watch. Yeah, I don't really like playing either of those characters, so... I also didn't super love Slap City, so... I don't know, I'm not the biggest platform fighter lover in general. So, take my opinions on it with a grain of salt. Know that I was probably not destined to love this game in the first place. It probably deserves to be a little higher up. A little higher up. Just a little. I'll put it over Sifu. But I think it's all right. I haven't heard like anything about it, so I don't know what the fate of that game is like. I don't know how the longevity is going to work out, or how regularly they were adding new characters or doing balance updates or anything like that, so... Don't think it succeeds at being a good, fun game for a long period of time, but I think the ways it's different all have solid reasoning. Sure, yes, Multiverses most definitely has a unique identity among platform fighters, and I think there is value to that. Didn't work out for me? It's not like worse Smash. Yeah, I don't know if I would have liked it more or less if it were just worse Smash. You probably would have liked it worse, Lawyer Dog, but... I don't know. I'm not saying Multiverses is bad. I'm saying that it didn't land perfectly for me. And I think... I mean, if you like platform fighters, it's worth trying out. It definitely has interesting stuff going on. If it was worse Melee, you would have loved it. I don't know about that. I think you would have had more bad things to say about it if it were worse Smash, at the very least. Anyways, that's all of them. That is all of the games that I streamed in 2022. A little bit of extra special, you know, what's the word? Commendations. Honorable mention. Honorable mention to Super Mario 64. I kind of piled in the Chaos mod into SM64 just being up here, but the Chaos mod, it was truly a special experience, and I do want to try some of the older versions of Chaos. I want to see, I want to experience those for myself as well. Put Chaos mod in Meta Knight tier. The Chaos mod is simultaneously one of the best and worst things that I played, but if I were just playing it casually, I think a lot of the most frustrating parts of the Chaos mod would have frustrated me drastically more. But the Chaos mod, as a game to stream, I mean, it's one of the best. It's just so far up there. It's a crowd pleaser, and it's also a me pleaser. I liked Chaos 4.0 quite a bit. It's so much fun. It's complete bullshit. It's hilarious. It is the most miserable time wasting. It is everything and nothing. It is It is Lawyer Dog bullying me about not making highlight videos. It's everything you could possibly want. Was Super Mario 74 part of the co-op thing? If I put special attention to Super Mario 74, it would probably be down in A tier, maybe B tier. Super Mario 74 was not good. It had a lot of that early ROM hack stank to it. There were some problems with Super Mario 74, but the co-op mod as a whole was just some of the most fun that I had streaming last year. In terms of just like fantastic high-quality video games that I played, or fantastic high-quality video games that came out last year, then my list would probably, like, comprise of these 5 games right here. Little Gator Game, Tunic, Elden Ring, Kirby, Xenoblade Chronicles 3. My top 5 games of 2022. With honorable mention for Vampire Survivors, because Vampire Survivors is fantastic. If you're looking for a good time, I think all 5 of these games are definitely games to look out for. I mean, Elden Ring, everybody knows what the fuck Elden Ring is all about. But, the new Kirby was so much fun, start to finish. Just a fantastic experience. Looked great, played great, had so much cool, fun stuff to find and do, and it had the cat with the huge thighs. How could you love it any less? Little Gator Game and Tunic, both games about a little fella exploring a world and finding all kinds of cool stuff and discovering all kinds of neat things that you can do while simultaneously approaching it from completely different ways. Tunic had some of the, like, absolute biggest brain, like, I feel like a genius, I love this, how, like, oh my god, this, I'm going to remember this moment forever kind of moments, while Little Gator Game was just, you're bouncing, you're jumping, you're climbing, you're hitting little cardboard obstacles and enemies and pots and doing fun little quests for your friends. They're both, like, some of the most memorable games of the year, but from very different angles. Tunic is so much more about the beauty of discovery, while Little Gator Game is more about moment to moment, just like actively engaging gameplay. And Xenoblade Chronicles 3, I still haven't truly hit a point of Xenoblade Chronicles 3 where you need to have played either of the other Xenoblades in order to, like, get the full impact, or in order to, like, to get it. If you've played Xenoblade 1 and 2, then you get more out of Xenoblade 3, but it's not a direct sequel in the traditional sense. So far, Xenoblade 3 stands on its own enough, while also drastically improving all of the gameplay aspects over both of the previous games. It is actually fun to play, and even in the moments where you just want to focus on the story or the exploration, it still gives you some extra tools to just, like, I could just hit a button and, like, auto fight this random encounter because I don't want to do this random encounter. Great, love it. Such a low impact include, and the the actual combat systems are fun and crunchy. There's a lot of like little optimizations that you can do if you really want to tinker with your party. It is so much fun while still having the incredible sense of scope, the fantastic graphics, the fantastic story and character writing and world building. It's all so good. It's so good. I'm a cat with huge thighs. I mean, sometimes, depending on how I'm feeling. It's like using freshly squeezed lime juice in a cocktail instead of prepackaged lime juice. It's more of a pain in the ass, but it's just a little bit better. And getting the lime takes 150 hours. Yeah, all 5 of these games right here. I love all of these games a whole lot for different reasons, and all these games up in S tier, I love them so much for all kinds of different reasons. And then you got this fun little fella, Xenoblade 2, who is one of my most loved and most hated games of 2022. But it didn't come out in 2022, so it doesn't actually really count if you think about it. A lot of games that I just straight up liked. More games that I streamed that I actively disliked than I expected, to be perfectly honest. Like a whole 5? Me? Putting games into the D tier for reasons of me actually just not liking them? Well, okay. Fortnite is a little bit of a cheat, I guess. But there were a handful of games that I was disappointed by. V Rising, Spelunky, Nobody Saves the World. All 3 of these games feel like they did not live up to their potential. Bloodborne, I was so much lower on Bloodborne than I thought I would be going into it. And then Across the Obelisk actually could easily be in the A's. Like, I liked Across the Obelisk so much more than I thought I would from first impressions. So much going on. A very interesting year. Across the Obelisk is so bad. I could hear you shuffling around downstairs for exactly the entirety of me talking about Across the Obelisk, so... V Rising can become a better game, but it won't because they haven't done anything with it. Yeah, I've seen that, like, there's been basically no updates to V Rising, so that's unfortunate because they could have improved that game quite a bit, but maybe they'll just make a sequel, and maybe the sequel will be more fun. I don't know, probably not. They added Z levels to castles? That sounds awful. That sounds like a bad idea. Any other last-minute thoughts about any of these games? I think what I want to do is I want to compile a list of games that I want to get around to this year. There's a lot of games that I want to do at least one stream of this year. And there's a couple of games that it's like, I want to do playthroughs of, but they would take so much time, like the Persona games. I would like to do a playthrough of Persona 3 and 4 and 5. I would like to do that, but the time investments would be so huge. And aren't there fucking like 2 Yakuza games coming out this year? And I still haven't played Lost Judgment. I haven't played Lost Judgment for me, let alone for y'all. What am I gonna do? I've got so much video game to play this year and like nothing's come out yet. Oh my goodness. Yakuza 8 is next year, but Ishin and the man who lost his name or whatever, the the 7.5, or was it 6.5? Whatever. The interim game. I thought that was also coming out this year. I like W Rising because the sequel can be W2 and then we can get Yoshi to do his fucking taxes. Hey, Baba's doing his taxes. The man who renounced his name. Right. Man, I need to get to Yakuza 7. Yakuza 7's so good, but there's still so much good left to... Oh, hey, speaking of Yakuza. There's still so much good stuff left in Yakuza 5, which is to say just like most of Yakuza 5. Oh wait, nope, I just remembered something about Yakuza 5 that does remind me of Yakuza 5 having some pretty low lows. There are only 52 Yakuza days in a year. Yeah, I don't know how I'm gonna get through it all. Oh boy. I would say this is going to be the year of the Yakuza, but this is, like, every year is the year of Yakuza with me. Because every Tuesday, baby! That's what we're up to. Oh boy. Alright. Well, we've only been going for 2 hours, so I think I'm gonna go ahead and switch over to Across the Obelisk. But if people want to keep talking about... People want to keep talking video games, I am more than happy to do so. Hat has a Yakuza crush. I love Yakuza games. They're so good. They're so much fun. My Yakuza crush is Majima. Come on. Pick a more It's like, oh, my favorite My Hero Academia character is All Might. Come on. Do better. Later, Ash. Pass along my regards to Digidoggy. Hope they're having a good stream. But All Might is cool? Yeah, All Might is the best character in My Hero Academia. Period. So you gotta pick your second favorite. Do we want the Spotify tunes to keep going for Against the Storm, or do we want to have the Against the Storm music going? What do people think? Did I not have... I didn't have the Spotify indicator thingy going on the entire time. I am a fool and an idiot, actually. Whichever I prefer. Unacceptable. I made a poll about it. Oh god, I've gotten pinged in so many channels. Oh, this one is just asking moderators to do something on a site that I do not have the power to do. Second favorite Yakuza character. My second favorite Yakuza character is... My second favorite Yakuza character is... Blankety, blankety, blank. We had one person vote, and they voted for the Against the Storm music, so. Oh! Am I not allowed to... Am I actually not allowed to stream Against the Storm, Comcast? Oh, has Comcast decided that my stream is over, actually? Is that what's going on? That'd be fun. That's a fun... That's a fun thing. Cool. Gotta love it. Yeah, at least I finished the tier list. Wow, yeah, we are sitting at a flat 0. I think it might be over, actually. That sucks. That's annoying. Oh, what a bummer. I mean, yep, nope, it's, yep. Alright.